Right, ESPN to confirm Matchday T20 to look ahead to the second game on Saturday. The Royal Challengers Bangalore are set to bow out, but can they spoil the Sunrisers party on their way out? We'll find out. That's the final game for both teams in the league stage. It's the final game in the Chinnaswamy Stadium. Thankfully, the rain has stayed away, but you never know because it's about 8 o'clock when the rain came about last time, and Daniel Vettori brought it with him from New Zealand on his first game. Ajit Agarkar is here too. And we're also going to look back at how the Rajasthan Royals have bowed out of this year's tournament and Delhi Capitals have stayed alive. Courtesy, fine bowling, all-round bowling effort. Amit Mishra and Ishan Sharma, 3 wickets apiece to ensure that Riyan Parag's youngest ever 50 by an IPL player is not a memorable result on the end of the day. Rishabh Pant making sure that Delhi don't cock up a chase, which they have done earlier in this season. 5-wicket win, which sees Delhi make a case for the top 2, and we'll see now whether Mumbai can reinforce their position at the top. Chennai looking quite good as well, but it also helps that the net run rate's in the positive. Small little takeaways that you can take. If Mumbai win tomorrow, they will displace Delhi, and Chennai are looking set now for a top 2 finish, but for a heavy defeat at the hands of Punjab. Okay, let's first look back at that game, Delhi v Rajasthan. Let's perhaps focus a little bit on Rajasthan, whose season has come to an end, and in some ways it's a slightly depressing way for the season to end, Daniel, for a team that promises a lot, that has so much, that they've changed the way they tend to think. They bought in big players. For some reason, it just looks like they put themselves in the corner and they never found their way back then.
It feels like a familiar season. I think the last few years they've had periods where you think they're on top. They've got a good team, good selection. Then other times they've been inconsistent and they've sort of found themselves sort of 5th, 6th, 7th a lot over the last few years. So another season where they're probably disappointed with where they're at. And if you look at their team at the back end of the competition compared to the one at the front, it's very different. And that was forced upon them with selection, players going across to the World Cup, injuries. So a frustrating season for them, but I still think they've got a good squad. So you look towards the future, you look towards what they've got coming out next year. If they can keep their squad together, then they do have a chance of improving, but they all are about some big players and they need to find some complementary pieces as well.
Yeah, we're looking at these talking points for Rajasthan, and one of those is that their top 5, the struggles of their batting. We speak of one sort of one-dimensional players, or rather one set of players, similar type of players, all like to bat in the top 3, and you just look at the amount of changes that they actually made. In numbers 1 to 5, they've used 11 players in 14 matches. Hyderabad and Mumbai have used 11 and 12. I think that's more just changing according to situation. Rajasthan essentially have had the issue of finding out who their best batsmen are at those positions. Point Dan makes that it's still a good squad. So are they just guilty of not identifying roles at the start of the season, or was it a question of personnel?
Yeah, I think it's point about players complementing the big players. I mean, you look at a Butler, like you said, that changes obviously because of Ajinkya Rahane not being in form. Steve Smith coming in and then dropping him for a game. Sanju Samson missing a couple of games. Rahul Tripathi being pushed up. It's also to do with the results. I think it's not enough. Ben Stokes, you forget, the one thing Rajasthan have done, unlike a lot other auctions, is spend a lot of money. They've spent almost all the money on big name players, whether it's a Archer or a Stokes. So the squad is there. The performances haven't been good enough for one reason or the other, and that's why the balance sometimes makes a difference. You've got to find the right 11 and find the right 11 quickly. I think captaincy was a bit of an issue, which I think Steve Smith might solve that. Makes a huge difference. Even if it's a 20-over game, it maybe makes a even bigger difference at times where if you find the right guy to make those big calls when you need to.
Okay, you need big players to finish games off with bat or ball, and our analysis of Rajasthan Royals suggests that their big players were guilty of not putting their hands up enough times, and we're focusing on the likes of Jaidev Unadkar again. Comes in for big money the second time. He's on 8.5 crore a year. Sometimes it's harsh to judge performance with auction value, but it is something the owners, I'm sure, Dan, at some point would try to see. Are you getting returns for what you've invested? Do you have that death bowling pedigree? In fact, at the last game of the season, he wasn't even making the 11.
Well, I think they did. At the start of the season, you look at Archer, Untitled, Kulkarni. I think the management would have said, we have some options here, we have some bowlers who can perform that role. So I think sometimes you just got to step back from the selection and the auction and say, well, the players haven't performed in these situations. And I think they would have had high expectations for Untitled. I think Archer's probably done a pretty good job, pretty consistent. They may have wanted more out of Stokes with the ball.
Yeah.
So the personnel's there. It's just that case of how do we get a performance out of them consistently? And that may be selection, that may be a lot of different things, but it's up to the players to step up in those situations.
You mentioned Ben Stokes, and yeah, they were hamstrung to a degree with Ben Stokes, who actually has had very good IPLs in the past. In 2018, he had a better IPL for the Royals. In fact, there was a great IPL that he had for Pune just prior to that. We were looking at his numbers in 2019, just didn't get it right with the bat, and he stopped bowling, in fact, halfway through the tournament. Does Ben Stokes strike you as the kind of player that you'd still want to retain because he could have that big season, or at 12.5 crore, is that something Rajasthan need to look at?
Are you going to find someone better than Ben Stokes, or two players as good as Ben Stokes can be on his day? I mean, he's had a tough year coming into this IPL anyway. So, yeah, you'd want him to perform better, obviously. But we've seen him do it in the IPL for another team with the bat and the ball. I mean, the year Pune made the finals, he was their star performer, and he was on big money then as well. So I don't think it's the pressure anymore of the money, which sometimes you can feel. So yeah, as tough as it could be, it's been two average seasons. I mean, this one wasn't a great season. Last season was slightly better. To let Ben Stokes go, who has skills with both bat and the ball when he's fit. I don't think, unless you find an able enough replacement, someone who's as good as him or better, I can't imagine them letting go of Ben Stokes, because you can actually build a team around that sort of player, which lends you the balance.
Sometimes you can't do anything if your best player just doesn't fire.
True, and I think there's no reason why next year he won't fire. And I think because we've seen him do it so many times in the past, whether it's IPL or international level, there's absolutely zero reason to give up on him, because I think you hold out. You see players in their best, so you remain optimistic, and it could be next year that's the time, and it could turn everything round. And if you've given him up to another team and he does it, then the
That's
frustration.
exactly what's going to happen. That's exactly
the
what's
frustration is far too much for anyone to handle. So
Every
hold on to him.
Every chance. Every
The
chance.
good part about him going in the auction is he might make 15 crores instead of 12.5.
That'll be good for Ben Stokes. But it's also his England teammate Jos Buttler, who's heavily relied on once again. He started this year's IPL like he ended last year's. And lots of runs at the top of the order, but they had to find ways of actually working without Jos Buttler when he went in after 7 or 8 games for the birth of his child. And Jos Buttler, with him 23% of the runs in 2019, 26%. To be fair, they actually beat Mumbai and Sunrisers after Jos Buttler had gone back. Mumbai Sunrisers and KKR after Jos Buttler had gone back. So you take 6 points of those to think there's still quality in that team. But are they always just guilty of starting poorly, making tactical errors, and then realizing some of the middle you got to change it? Change captain, change batting order, drop Tripathi, make Rahane play differently. Why does it take 6 or 7 games to realize the same mistake?
The captaincy is an interesting one. I think it would have been a big call to bring Steve Smith straight back in after everything that's happened. So I think they made
It's almost like they wanted to do it but couldn't.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. I think they knew what they wanted to do, and they almost had to have a poor start to the season to allow that to happen, which seems unfortunate, but that was the situation. I don't think there's an over-reliance on Buttler. I think all teams have their special players and they want them to perform, and so just because Butler's performing and the others aren't quite as good, I don't think it means it's an over-reliance. I think the expectation is around the likes of Tripathi and Rahane, Ben Stokes. Those guys can lift only a tiny bit, and all of a sudden they become a very good team. So I think sometimes when teams have these terrible seasons, they just throw everything out and start again, where all you're looking for is 5 to 10% improvement, and then you've got a great team again.
Yeah, I mean, they found a Riyan Parag towards the end of that competition. So next year, if he keeps improving the way what he's shown this year, that could be a real good option coming low down the order. So the personnel is there. I think they've spent enough money to get the personnel together. Unfortunately, the performances haven't been as good as they would have liked.
Yeah, Riyan Parag, standout player towards the end of the season, or at least promising to be a standout player going forward for the Rajasthan Royals. You also had Shreyas Gopal, who's had another prolific season for Rajasthan with ball, so that's turned out well for them. There are good things that have happened. They have picked up tough points. They beat Mumbai home and away, which no other team can credit just yet. Kolkata have that chance, but otherwise it's only been Rajasthan Royals that have done that. And maybe if Ashwin wouldn't have munkered Butler on the first game, things would have been different. But as it turns out, that's the season. The curtains come down on Rajasthan Royals season. Let's focus then on the next game, because we'll have enough time to talk about Delhi Capitals during the playoffs. So let's focus on Bangalore versus Hyderabad. And guess what? Virat Kohli is delighted that he's won a toss. He doesn't do it often. And Kane Williamson joking that both of them were ready to lose the toss because they've hardly won any this season. Bangalore are going to be bowling. And if you want a must-win game and you've kept it late till the end of the season, then not sure you wanted Achinaswamy with Bangalore nothing to lose. And they win the toss and they're going to chase now. Familiar story?
You can still get in on 6 wins. That's what they'll be telling everyone.
Your plan is still in motion.
Exactly. 100%.
That everyone loses and you can still sneak in on 6.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough ask, but I think it's the Sunrisers team that has a lot of confidence in themselves, and that's mainly due to that bowling attack. I think that bowling attack is fantastic, well balanced, and obviously led by Rashid Khan. They've had to make quite a few changes because of the Warner and Besto coming in and out of the side. So, look, I really think it's a great squad that they have and a confident team that Sunrise will be. So I don't think it matters because of the net run rate that they have to bat first. It's not like they need to chase anything down. It's simply about winning the game. Well, it might not even be about winning the game, but I think in their mindset, all they have to do is win. So run rates and all that other stuff is not a concern for them. So
we'll speak a little bit about that bowling attack in particular, because the one thing Sunrisers haven't done is actually make too many changes. It's a curious conversation to have when you have a set bunch of players, but they've not delivered like they did previously. And we're looking at that team, Ajit. They brought in Basil Thampi last game. They've decided that Sandeep Sharma's had enough of a run and he's not quite doing the job for you. Khalil Ahmed was a breath of fresh air when he came in and he's got wickets straight away. But there haven't been too many changes with the bowling. He's made one change. Yusuf Pathan comes in for Abhishek Sharma. I guess they're just going with experience there. But has that been the key difference? That Sunrisers, even when they've got the runs at times, their bowling attack that defended mediocre to below par scores last season has just gone off the ball collectively.
Yeah, them and KKR, I think, two great examples why they've struggled this year. I think particularly Sunrisers, though, they sort of build their team around such a strong bowling unit. Siddharth Kaul, we forget.
Yes.
He had a couple of decent seasons for them. Bowled towards the difficult part of the innings towards the end in particular. Did a good job. Bhuvi. Bhuvi started the tournament or this IPL quite slow. He's grown into it, obviously with experience, bit more form or rhythm. Khalil Ahmed's obviously helped them coming and doing well. Basil Thampi, they'd be hoping this today, and hopefully if they qualify makes a difference. But yeah, the bowling's been a concern, and batting predominantly. I mean, it's not such a bad thing if top two keep doing the job every time. But unfortunately, those top two vanish come the business end of the tournament. Then it becomes a problem because rest of the guys haven't had much of a hit in this year's competition. Manish Pandey is obviously played, then dropped, and come back, and he looks like the standout player at the moment. It'd be nice for them for Kane Williamson to get some runs tonight. If that happens and they go through, then that gives them a real chance.
Maybe if you look at last year, how good Warner and Dhawan were last year, and Warner and Besto therefore this year, it's not like we didn't expect it. But did last year's success and the fact that the bowlers did well hide the fact that there's still vulnerabilities in the middle order, almost like the Indian team conversation, where you tried with Vijay Shankar, he's not quite come off. Between Yusuf Pathan, Deepak Hooda, you weren't getting any. They brought back Yusuf now. So other than the bowling, and let's leave the top two out because that's unique circumstances, there was still an issue from last year that's been exposed this year.
I think so, and it's a similar story to last year with Williamson as well. Was so successful at the top of the order.
Yes.
I think collectively the results don't look that good, but I think at times all their middle order has stepped up, and Manish Pandey in the last little while. So they don't have the overall great numbers up until the last little while for Manish Pandey. So I think what they want is that one or two performances, because the top two's been so successful. It doesn't leave much for them to do, and it's a luxury to have your middle order not firing because your top order's been so good. So it's hard to pick on them because they haven't performed to what everyone expects, but they haven't needed to either.
Sure.
So they may have some opportunities in this game and the playoffs going ahead, and that's where the expectations will come in, but I wouldn't be too worried about it.
Okay, Manish Pandey, as Ajit points out, looks like the best player in that team, and right now with David Warner and Bairstow gone back, last 5 games, he's striking at 156, the average is 90, been 3.5 centuries in that, so very good from Manish Pandey after he was given maybe a bit of a wake-up call and axed and dropped to the bench. He's brought back. What that's done though, Dan, is he's now forced to bat 3, and Saha's opening, Guptill's playing, so poor Williamson might bat 8 again, like you said, doing what he needs to for the team.
100%. I mean, Kane to a fault will do whatever the team requires, and see how.
Of course, very New Zealand. Isn't it?
Of course.
Sure. But what that does is it makes Williamson the best of Williamson was when he opened in the IPL.
Yeah, might
And
be
we won't
surprised
get
might
to see
open
that.
in place of Saha today. I would really look at this as a great pitch to bat on. There's some seam bowling to face as well.
Yeah.
Not that Saha's got off to
A couple of good
decent
shifts.
starts. But it won't be a bad. You want Kane Williamson getting enough balls to get in, enough getting runs rather. He's had a pretty poor season from his standards. I mean, what he did for them last season, and because of what Bairstow and Warner did, couldn't find a place in the 11, which is unthinkable for me really after the season that he's had. So, good opportunity. I mean, I'd seriously look at it to get him to open in this game. I mean, there's no comparison really if you compare him
Williamson
and Saha
and
as
Saha.
good a job as Saha's done.
That was going to be my next question. Would you rather have Saha's best utility, which is opening, and have him have a crack there, or Williamson's best utility, which is opening, and he should be batting?
Well, I think they can look to last season and how well Kane batted in this fixture. I think he got maybe late 90s or something like that, and he almost chased down a big score. So he'll have some confidence playing on this wicket, and I think that's a really good point around who at their best will give them most opportunity to win. And whilst Saha has done a good job, I think Kane Williamson batting for 20 overs trumps anything that Saha can do. So maybe the option is for Williamson and Guptill to open and then leave Saha in the middle orders. And he has batted there a lot, so it's not like it's unfamiliar to him. He can do that role.
Right. They'll be carrying the New Zealand flag in this game, Williamson and Guptill. Colin de Grandin joins them too. We look at the RCB team. There have been changes made by Virat Kohli. Guess what? Shimron Hetma has decided that he's got to work a bit harder for his paycheck. That's going to come his way just at the end of this tournament. He was dropped after his 5 games. Washington Sundar replaces Pawan Negi, but there still is room for only 3 overseas players. Marcus Stoinis has, of course, returned back for pre-World Cup duty. So that's what we've got as far as the team goes. Another team that's playing 3 overseas players, like Rajasthan.
Yeah, it's
No place for Tim Southee. That would have been a good New Zealand test.
It's always strange when a team plays 3 overseas because I think you're exposing at times some young Indian players as opposed to some incredibly experienced overseas players who have been in these situations a lot of times. But I think probably this is the one time that you almost let it slide because it's the last game of the season.
Yeah.
There's some planning towards next year. There's some thoughts around how players can fit in. So I think RCB will be using this as a look to the future, and Hetmeyer should play a huge part in that because I think he's a fantastic player. He hasn't had a great IPL, but like we talked about Stokes, it doesn't mean he can't come back next year and be exceptional. So they'll give him one last try, and hopefully he can do it in this game.
Hetmeyer for you, again, someone that you would want to keep, and if you did think he's someone who's going to fire, why not give him more opportunity?
Yeah, I couldn't understand it really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things. If you don't win, then suddenly you see all the teams that have been losing, whether it's Rajasthan or RCB, suddenly want to try and get that 11 right. You make changes. He's had a tough start to his IPL. He hasn't done it in the IPL before. Plus a pure batsman at the top of the order. I thought they would have given him more opportunities, considering what Virat Kohli has seen what he can do, especially how he played against India. So a little bit surprised, but hopefully he takes this opportunity to show it. Tough attack to do it against. Like Sir Rashid Khan that he's going to come up again. So
Nabi got him last time as well.
So I mean, they were chasing 220, 230 at that point. So some difficult games. De Grandin, another one I think they'd be looking at whether he fits going forward maybe next year. That 6-7 spot is always a tough one.
Speaking of Mohammad Nabi, let's focus on him again. He's proving to be a key member of this Rajasthan team. Took the Sunrisers nearly to the brink of a victory along with Manish Pandey at the Wankhede. Then they wouldn't have had as much pressure on this game, or it still would have been in their hands then. But Mohammad Nabi, if you're just looking at the most effective bowlers in the power play, he's got 5 wickets in 5 innings and goes at an economy of 4.5. it's quite something because he's kept Shakib Al Hasan out of the team, Ajit, and he is also making a case to play as the extra overseas player ahead of someone like Billy Stanley.
Yeah, and has played okay. Parthiv Patel's opening at the moment, and Hetmaya they played, but there are lots of right-handers in that RCB lineup. I mean, Virat Kohli, AB de Villiers obviously bowled well against them. I think got a 4-4 last time they played in Hyderabad, but it just controls the ball, bowls pretty straight, is really smart. I think watches the batsman, you know what they're doing, and he's just smart. You can see the way he approaches his bowling. And doesn't try to overdo himself, bowls within himself. Those numbers tell you the story. It's a tough place to bowl with a new ball. I mean, Dan was as good, so he'd probably tell you a bit better as far as how difficult it is for a spinner.
I think Nabi loves bowling with that new ball because I think it allows his variations to play a bigger part. The one that skids on and he can actually turn the brand new ball. When he bowls a little bit later in the innings, he bowls probably a lot quicker and relies on execution, whereas I think at the start he hits his areas and some skid, some spin, and like Ajit said, he's incredibly smart, and I think he watches the batsman closer than anyone. He has this sort of action that allows him to almost stop and have a view at what the batsman's doing, and that he just feels like he's one step ahead all the time, and I think that's always the calling card of a good spinner, someone who looks like he's in control the whole time, knows what a batsman's trying to do, and tries to negate it as much as he can.
Yeah, just have a look at Mohammad Nabi against left-hand batsmen, and that's been the real effect that he's had. If you look at him against left-handers, 8 wickets in the IPL at an economy of 4.5. So Parthiv Patel, Shimron Hetmaya, a few of them
get ready
in the top 4. Yeah, get ready. I always enjoy, I'm a fan of how Tom Moody builds squads in the IPL at least. You know, if Shakib may not work, you've got Nabi there. Williamson, Warner and Bairstow might leave. You've got Williamson and Guptill to take over. Nabi, again, one of those very smart cricketers that Sunrisers went for, you know, with more appetite more than a lot of others.
And we haven't even talked about his batting either. Yeah. So, I mean, it's an all-round package like Shakib. They can always fit and match, and then they don't actually make that many changes. They're just ready in the wings, and they know they need to make 1 or 2 here or there just for matchups or pitch conditions or ground size. So they cover every base, and I think you're right that they do select a squad that allows them to make a lot of good decisions. They have the fundamentals in the likes of Rashid and Warner and those key guys, and then around that they have some very good players.
Yeah, I mean that is what makes it so surprising. I think if you look at squad as a whole, 20 players, 22 players, I don't think too many teams can match with this squad.
Oh yeah. I mean, Billy Stanley hasn't got a game all year.
Well, Siddharth Cole on the bench.
Sid Cole on the bench.
Sandeep Sharma's actually, I think he's actually had a good year. So I wonder if he's injured because he's been out for these last 2 games where I thought he's bowled reasonably well.
He's had a few. He's had 3 or 4 good games, and then he's also gone the distance 3 or 4, which I guess happens to everybody. Yeah. But from what we're hearing, it was. I mean, not that I know for injury for Sandeep.
Yeah, but they have the replacements. Whether they come and perform, that's a different issue. But they have enough quality replacements.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the guys that haven't got a game at all, and you've got Shrivats Goswami, who's played the playoffs and the final last year, and you've got Billy Stanley amongst those who's not getting a game, who would probably make the RCB team if they had his services, arguably.
Stop picking on us.
Sorry about it. I thought you were done with RCB, aren't you? You should be looking forward.
I'm still there.
I'm trying to build you up as potentially the next coach for some of the other franchises.
I'm happy here. Don't get rid of me yet.
Okay, so that's the conversation around Sunrisers Hyderabad. There's also a curious case of Vijay Shankar and how he might need to do a little more with bat. But let's also look forward and try and figure out the Fab 4 results look like. In the previous game, Rishabh Pant was a very good pick by Ajit Agarkar because he's actually ended up getting him some points. So 100 plus points by Pant, and you've got Mishra that both of you picked, and between Rane and O'Shane Thomas, that was brilliant. Yeah, 195. What has Dan got? Let's have a look. Dan Vittori. 139. Gopal was good. You're the spin, all spin, 4 spinners strategy.
How does Axa only get 1 point?
He got 1 run, I think. He was none for 16 or 4.
I think nothing helps.
So I looked at that actually. Yeah. He went at 4, and Shafin Rutherford's bowled 5 balls and given 2 runs away. It's a complete loophole in the system.
I don't want to complain.
That's okay. It hurt me the other night.
You're the first left-arm spinner to say that on my show. Yeah.
I say the same thing hurt me the other night.
Yeah, some absolute in that 1 over game.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, pick your Fab 4 today, gentlemen. So let's get the lists out and help Ajit and Dan Vittori. Who's it going to be?
Ajit start. He won. You go again.
Oh. Yeah. Let's pick AB de Villiers. And who's they're bowling, aren't they?
Chahal's there.
And Pick Saini.
I thought you might. Yeah, Navdeep Saini.
I've been picking him.
You've
Hasn't
been
been
picking
doing
him
much
all
for us.
season. Yeah.
It's like my fantasy football. actually.
And
I'm going to go Kane Williamson today.
all right.
I hope he gets some runs and Khalil Ahmed.
Okay, Khalil Ahmed it is. And
Leave Rashid Khan for him.
I'll go away from my previous theories. I'll go Nabi and Guptill,
okay.
and I'm just going to rule out AB. I'll have AB as well,
AB
just to
is
cut
you
him
don't want
out.
Virat Kohli then?
I don't, and can't take all the good players. And my other one is Hetmeyer. Let's see what he can do today.
Oh, you're just having fun with these, aren't you? There's absolutely nothing, makes no difference to your life, so you might as well have a crack with Shimron Hetmeyer. Okay, just on our way out, before we leave you, it's time to have a look at more sights and sounds of the wonderful United Kingdom, and we're going to Nottingham today. It's time for visit. It's time for visit Britain.
Football on your mind, is it?
It's on my mind. I'm so happy that
1-0.
they've lost. But let me do that again. It's time to build up to the World Cup, and it's time for Visit Britain. It's time to have a look at Nottingham. Trent Bridge, some big games in the World Cup there. Check out ESPNcricinfo.com for the full list of fixtures. Fond memories of Nottingham? I think both of you played some test cricket there. One test.
We drew a test there.
Yeah. Dan got walloped by an innings. I'm not reminding him.
I actually played for Notts as well, so
did, yes.
I had a month there. I didn't play well for Notts, but I had a month there.
A good place, Nottingham?
Yeah, nice place.
Yeah.
Nice place, yeah.
You're more of a London person.
No.
Yeah, I could tell. Like,
I could play test cricket anyway.
Notts is fun. It was a lot. It's a great city. There's a lot to do, and I love my month there aside from the cricket.
Apart from the cricket. Okay. Many thanks to Dan Vittori and Ajit Agarkar. Game already underway. So follow every ball on ESPNcricinfo.com, and we'll be back at halftime to see where it stands. Thanks for watching ESPN Cricinfo Match Day T20.